Right, got our 300 Series Landcruier false floor. I'm going to give you a quick bit of a run through with it. So we basically work with RV Storage Solutions to design a battery system that goes in the floor of the 300 Series or in the subframe under the floor. So this battery system can fit with the RV storage false floor or the roller drawers, depending on what you want to do. This is actually just the false floor. I'll give a bit of a rundown of what's in here and also what we need to do to install it. But effectively, this one is designed for GR Sport. The GR Sport doesn't have rear seats, but we've designed basically what we call a high five kit, which basically means that this particular one's lifted up a little bit higher with the subframe so we can fit more electrical gear under the floor. There's a little infill here which fills the gap. We can do the lower floor in this system, with this, but we use a thinner battery, so 110 amp hour battery. This one's got a 220 amp hour battery and an inverter. So if you don't want as much power and don't want an inverter, we can put a lower floor system in it and go from there. But effectively, this is the finished product. You've got 4 tie downs on the actual floor. It only sits slightly up from where the original floor would do. Basically, you take the floor out of the back, take this the factory subframe out, and you put in a new RV storage subframe which holds everything, which you'll have a look at in a moment. Got 4 tie downs. It's got this handy little nook there, I guess you'd call it, with a lift out panel. That's just for your toolkit that comes normally in the top of the factory floor, which obviously you can't get to anymore, so that's the ability to store that. Or you could use it to store other stuff if you don't want that toolkit in there. So none of the screws are in the moment, so I can just lift this off, have a look at the battery system and put that aside. So we've really got no real loss of space within the vehicle other than a little bit at the bottom of the floor. This system, to give you a rundown, in the subframe with the twin battery frame that RV make, we've put a 220 amp hour slimline lithium battery. This one is made by LBS in Queensland, and it has 220 amp hours, as I just said, and it's also got 240 continuous amp rating. Now what that means is it'll run a large inverter continuously without any problem. So battery, which fits here on top of the tray, all mounted down securely. We've got, in this situation, we do have some options, but this one has got a 2000 watt pure sine wave red arc inverter. On the side here, just quickly, is a remote switch which will go on the side panel of the Landcruiser to be able to turn the inverter on and off because it's under the floor. Can't get to it later. We'll come back to the panel in a moment. Component wise, maxi fuse for your inverter. We've got a number of MIDI fuses here for the outlets. We've got an LED light which goes on the tailgate, which we'll touch on a little bit again later. The fridge, which I've got an outlet which comes out at the back of the actual floor in this case, so that's where we want it for the particular fridge that's going to be running this vehicle, but that just tucks down in the gap behind the back of the back seats and gives you another outlet at the back. So those fuses, by lifting the floor, can be accessed. We've got a Victron disconnect, just to stop the battery from getting over discharged. That'll cut out the load if need be. A 20 amp solar controller, plug in a blanket in this particular case. There's no fixed panels, but there is the option to add fixed panels. The new Orion XS, which is basically a 50 amp DC-DC charger, which will charge the battery from the car. Coming down slightly, we've got the 240 volt 30 amp Victron charger, so that's for charging it from 240 volts. There's a lead here which comes out under the false floor. I've been able to actually run that up the side trim from under the floor, and in the little pull out panel you can just tuck this in there, so if you need to charge this from 240 caravan park or home, you can pop that little panel out, pull out the lead and plug in an extension lead. Lastly, there is the smart shunt, which basically connects your phone to monitor the battery system wirelessly. So you can see everything that's going on your phone. So you can see the percentage of charge, how many volts you've got, your starter battery voltage, how long the battery will last with the loads that you're running, etc. And it's all pretty much tied up in that one sort of frame. This all comes pre-programmed, ready to go. So all the Victron components is programmed, all the outlets are currently working. Basically, you run one cable from the front of the vehicle, from the start battery through a mini fuse, to the back through the floor in a grommet that's there, and plug it into this existing yellow Anderson plug. That Anderson plug feeds into the DC-DC charger and charges it. So there's one cable you've got to run from the front of the car to the back. The rest, everything is done. The other cable you need to run, obviously, other than the fridge cable there at the back, is we've actually designed and 3D printed a panel that clicks into the side of the Landcruiser 300 series. This panel is the little one that pulls out to access the jack, and it replaces that whole panel. This is our prototype panel. We're getting the exact Landcruiser texture coming out and a few other things which will be a little bit better, but effectively it's a completely 3D printed one-piece item which allows us to run up to 3 Landcruiser switches, a twin USB, a cigarette lighter plug, a red Anderson for solar input in this case, a Anderson out. We've got a work light switch which allows us to run the work light, and then we've got an inverter which is wired through to the power points. I've also put another Anderson behind which is just teed into the Anderson for the solar input, so you're able to actually run a solar input from, say, a fixed mount roof panel. You can run it out of the car wherever you want. Lastly, we've got one more wire that I've run for the work light. The work light in this case we've actually wired up through a relay to run up to the tailgate. We've put in this particular vehicle, it's got a Ignite rectangle light which basically flush mounts into the tailgate, which is an option, and I've pre-wired all that. That just runs around through the tailgate, mount the light, you can exit, then this will shut that on and off. That panel is pretty much going to be available as a separate part, and you will be able to see that on our website soon enough. But at this stage, if you buy this complete kit, you determinate the back of that, run the cables around, re-terminate, click that in, bolt that with 4 bolts to the floor, then put your lid or your false floor back on top. It is only one cable to run from the front of the car. So I'm very surprised if this took you any more than probably an hour to install. Once that's done, and you'll be able to run induction cooktop up to 2,000 watts, a coffee machine up to 2,000 watts, basically anything you need, 220 amp hour, lithium battery, all a good bit of kit, high quality products. Just get in touch if you want to do something, but that's pretty much how it all goes together.